Hello, welcome back. So today I have a very exciting video. So it's a haul, but let me just rewind a little and explain to you how it even came about. So I was combing through eBay because we're quarantined and literally there's nothing to do. So I was online shopping. I came across a picture of a deck that was definitely an albino weight, a vintage version, but it was only the back of the box. And basically, the only thing that really changes much on the back of the box is whether it says accurate color tones or new colored deluxe edition. Some of them have some like box colored tape over the back where the instructions, where it would say that it came with instructions if it didn't. And there's potentially an address that could be on it. Long story short, the only real way to know like which deck you have is like to ask questions or see pictures, essentially. Because the albino weights came in, he was the first person to create a giant Majors Only. He also released a standard edition of just the Majors. There was a mini version. And then just a standard edition of the full-size deck. So, back to the story. I messaged the seller and asked for pictures of the cards. So the seller got back to me pretty quickly. He sent me pictures of the cards, and there were two things that I noticed. Firstly, it looked like he laid them out on his coffee table, and they filled the coffee table up. But I wasn't totally sure the size of the coffee table. I didn't know if it really was a coffee table. It could have been like a TV tray or something. It was unclear, but to me it looked like a coffee table. The other thing I noticed was that the corners of the cards were not rounded. So immediately I thought, this is a giant Majors Only, and I need to get it because I need it for my collection. And also, they're pretty uncommon to come across. And when you do come across them, they're usually very pricey compared to other tarot decks and stuff that, that you collect. But, so immediately I messaged the seller and asked if he could measure the cards and count the cards and let me know how many there were. So he messaged me back and said that they were 9 1/4 inches by 5 3/4 inch, and I was like, yes, it's a giant. I need to get it. So while I'm doing this, while I'm talking to the seller, I'm also talking to my friend Mary, who is a wealth of knowledge about tarot and everything else. And so I'm messaging her back and forth, and I'm like, do you think I should get it? Should I wait? I get paid on Friday. What should I do? This is a sticky situation. Because, we're quarantined. I'm kind of out of work. But, also this never shows up. And I need it. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to get it. I went to check. And before I could go and put a bid in, or it was... You could either, it had a starting bid or a buy it now. And I was just going to buy it because the buy it now price was, the buy it now price was the price of a standard vintage edition of the deck, like full 78 cards. And this version would go for way more than that. So, before I had time to buy it or submit an offer or do anything, someone else got it. And so I could tell that the seller on eBay was pretty close to me. He was only 20 minutes away from where I was. I was helping my mother-in-law move. She just bought a house in Texas, so I wasn't even in my state, but I was 20 minutes away from the seller. So I messaged the seller and I just said, hey, I know we were talking about the cards. You had given me some information. If the sale that is pending falls through, please let me know. I absolutely want it. And I'm only 20 minutes away from you, so you won't even have to worry about shipping. I can just come and pick it up and give you the money. But he messaged me and said, hey, I'll totally keep you in mind, but I inherited 2 trunks of tarot cards from my stepmom, and since you're so close, if you want, you can come and look at them and see if there are any that you're interested in before I post them to eBay. And I was like, yes. I had been cooped up at my mother-in-law's house, moving all of her stuff, cleaning her old apartment, like dealing with all of that. And so I didn't have my tarot decks either because I was there. I didn't think I was going to be there for a week. So I was like really pining for my cards. And so when he messaged me that, I was like, yes, I will be there. Let me know when. So he messaged me and was basically like, that's great. This is perfect. When works for you? When do you want to come and look at them? And I sent him a message and it was just like, Friday is perfect. It's ideal. And I didn't hear anything from him on Thursday. And then Friday morning, I still hadn't heard anything. And so I sent him another message and was just like, hey, I was just checking in to see, like, is this something that you're still interested in? No big deal if not. Like, I understand there's a lot going on in the world. So, I mean, if you just want to send me some pictures, that's fine too. Like, whatever. I'm open to whatever you got going on, but I am interested in seeing your 2 trunks of decks. So, like, half the day goes by, it's like noon. I'm like pretty bummed out that I haven't heard from him because I was really excited. I mean, any of us would have been so excited for this opportunity. So I, was kind of bummed out. And then I got a message from him and he was basically like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm really new to eBay and I couldn't figure out, like, something happened. I don't know if it was on my end or your end, but it wouldn't let me reply, but now I can, obviously. So if today is still good, let me know when. I'll send you my address and that's cool. And you could come. So I messaged him back and was like, perfect. With traffic, I'm like 25 minutes away from you. I'll head that way now. I'll be there by like 2:30. It's great. I walked into the front door. He had the trunks right in his living room, which was right as soon as you walked in. The trunks, when I say I could fit in one of the trunks, that is how big the trunk was. And he had 2 more trunks that were in storage in a different city that were all of this woman's. It sounds like this was these other 2 trunks that were not here. It sounds like they were his stepmom's, like, working decks because he said they were all in drawstring bags. But the thing about this lady is she obviously used tarot. You could tell the decks that she liked because she had doubles of some of them. But the thing is, she obviously really, really cared about the cards and the art and the collecting aspect of it as much as she did reading, because even the decks that were in bags, he said she had all of the guidebooks and all of the boxes for those decks packed away nice and neatly in Tupperware containers and labeled, so that, I guess, if and when she ever decided she wanted to rotate them out or, do whatever with them, or if she didn't feel like she loved a deck anymore and she wanted to pass it on, she had all of the original components to the deck to go back with it. So the 2 trunks that I dealt with, I would be shocked. I stopped counting decks at like 900 and something. This woman had 2 trunks, literally 1,000 decks I touched while I was there. She had every deck I had ever seen. She had decks that I had never seen. She had an entire box of Carol Herzer decks that I think Carol Herzer doesn't make anymore and doesn't offer anymore. He didn't really realize the value of any of them. He didn't know what decks he had. All he knew was that he needed to keep one deck separate because it was promised to someone, I guess a friend of his stepmom, and that was a first edition Toth deck in, it was the Samuel Weiser, I believe, was the very first edition. It's either Samuel Weiser or Llewellyn. I'm not super familiar. Anyway, it's the big white box with the little gold slipcase. So he had that to the side, but he had every edition of that deck. So I helped him value all of the decks. I basically just placed them in piles, and I was like, these are the ones that are like $25 to $30, $35 maybe. These are like 35 to 45-ish. These are like 45 to 55. And so I had them all separated and laid out. And while I was doing that, I was putting the decks that I wanted to the side. Because there were decks that she had that I have wanted, looked at for like years, and either they're very expensive or very hard to find, or they just didn't come up in a condition that was good enough. So, alright. That's that. That's what I did. I helped him price them all with post-it notes and everything. And now I'll get into the decks that I got. So, I got the Christopher Columbus Tarot. This one is an Italian deck. It is number 1106 of 3000. These are the backs. And I'll do like a formal walkthrough of these, I'm sure, but basically the deck is all about, like, the Fool is Christopher Columbus, and it's all about his voyage to America. Next, I got this is, I think, the back. This is what I believe the, like, mass market version of this is. But the thing is, every deck that I saw online, I've wanted this deck forever. This is the one that was produced in Italy before it got picked up. So this is like an art edition that I have never seen anyone else have. So the cards are not, the corners aren't rounded. They're still like fully square. And this deck I have wanted for a very long time. It is kind of hard to find. When you do find it, it's usually pretty pricey. Okay, I got a first edition US Games yellow box, and then a later edition, yellow box. I got the original printing of the Universal Dali Tarot, which has a lovely little backstory. It was created for Salvador Dali's wife. And this deck has been reprinted, and you can get it currently. It comes in 2 editions. There's a standard one, and then there is the re-released version like this that has like the gold. I don't know if I even showed that. It's gold gilded. So you can get this deck still, but there's just something cool and special about having the original edition of it. So the Tarot Dali, the Universal Dali Tarot, the reason that I wanted this is that my husband and I honeymooned in Barcelona and London and Barcelona, and so there's a lot of Salvador Dali's architecture and art and Goel Park, and there's just a lot of references to my honeymoon basically in that deck. So yeah, I was very glad to have that. So I also got the Kazanlar Tarot, which is so hard to find. It took me forever to find it. Usually it's so expensive. The Tarot Balbi, which is cool, and a little fun fact about this deck is one of the majors is Stuart Kaplan of US Games, which is so cool, and I'm pretty sure it's the Emperor. But when I do my video of this deck, I will find out. But the creator of this deck was friends with Stuart Kaplan and added him into the deck, which is pretty fun. So next I got the Masonic Tarot by Jean Bouchard, I believe. My French, yes, I'm from Louisiana. Yes, there's lots of French names and things. No, I'm not good at it. But this deck is probably, honestly, the deck that I have wanted and looked for the longest. And then I got a backup of the Rider Tarot Deluxe. This is actually my version of it because I traded the one that I got in this little haul for a very special deck that I'm going to unbox on the channel. So look for that. And then, as some of you probably know, I traded my Royal Fez Moroccan to Simon at the Hermit's Cave, and I didn't regret it. I don't regret it at all, because it gave me a deck that I couldn't find. And I mean, I knew I would find it again, and I did. But, I mean, as a person who really loves the RWS, I felt like, while it didn't bother me to let it go, I did feel like I wanted it in my collection still. So, I got it back. And I'm glad. So everybody wins. Simon got it, now I have it. This is a deck that I truly thought I would absolutely never have because it was printed in 1996, I believe, and was only in print for a very short time, and went out of print, and basically the artist was not interested in selling it anymore. It's the Greenwood Tarot. This is the original edition of it. And I'm not going to go into too much detail. This is the book. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail because I have done, these are the backs. I have done lots of research on this deck and trying to figure out what the deal is, because essentially the deck, I mean, every time I've Googled it, I've never seen it for less than like $900 being sold. There's some on Etsy right now. And as much as I love a deck, I can't imagine spending that much. I mean, it would be one thing if it was like an original writer, like Pam A or Pam B or something like that. Maybe I could see spending that kind of money, but not on a regular deck. But basically, the artist, from what I can tell, is not interested in a reprint. Mark Ryan, who wrote the book, is apparently working on re-releasing it and doing like a pre-order type thing. I think he must be getting pushback from someone, because I have been on an email list for at least a year, I would say, waiting for the time where he opens up the pre-orders and you can get it. But apparently it's being released sometime in the summer, but who knows now that this pandemic has happened. What I will say is Cheska Potter, while her website doesn't exist anymore, you can still find it in the archives, and she has basically released all of the card images and given her permission for individuals to have a copy of the deck printed through like Make Playing Cards or, you know, whatever printing place you want. But only personally for yourself, not for distribution, not for, you know, sale to anyone else. So I'm going to do a video on the Greenwood and a walkthrough of it and kind of go into some of that. But essentially, you can have your own printed. I know a few people have done that. And there is a website that has the PDF version of all of the cards, so it's possible. But yeah. So, yeah. I didn't want this video to be like a, ooh, I can't believe, you know, he's such a show-off. Like, that's not... The point isn't to, like, show you how amazing all these decks are, though they are amazing. The story is what I really wanted to share, because, like, how many times is that ever going to happen, where you send someone a message and just reach out hoping to maybe, you know, get a second chance on a deck that you missed out on, and then have that turn into an opportunity to literally dig through a person's lifelong collection of tarot decks before anyone else touches them. I mean, like, as far as I could tell, his stepmom, his dad, him, and me were the only people that ever did anything with these decks. Never touched them, ever shared them, anything. So the whole experience was really cool, and I was really glad to be able to help him put a value on the decks, because I would want my family, when I'm gone and they get all my decks, I would want them to be able to either use them or let the value of the decks be beneficial to them. You know, I mean, like, if they aren't going to use them, that's fine. I don't think they don't need to hold on to them just because I liked them. But if they're going to sell them, I would like them to get the value of what the decks are, and it also is not super fair, I think, to take advantage of someone like that in his situation. So, I mean, I was honest about how much the decks were worth. He was very thankful of me helping him with that, and so he truly gave me these decks for next to nothing, honestly. So, yeah, I'm super grateful, super thankful, and I hope everyone is staying safe now with all this craziness in the world, and keeping your distance and cooking at home, and yeah. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy this little gratuitous sharing of a wonderful thing that happened to me.